On your radio now, it's Entrepreneur's Edge with Jerry Mitchell, bringing you the information and insights designed to give you the edge you need. Jerry, take it away, sir.
Good afternoon and welcome to Entrepreneur's Edge, the show that gives you information and insights from entrepreneurs and thought leaders that will give you the edge. I'm Jerry Mitchell, host of the show, and I am joined by my fabulous co-host and award-winning businesswoman, Ophelia Cox. How are you on this hot summer day, Ophelia?
Wonderful. Oh, I get my entire name today, huh?
Yeah.
I'm good. How are you, Jerry?
I'm good. Just trying to stay cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
as we all are.
Yeah. So EE listeners, we're joined today by a fantastic entrepreneur that I recently met at the Alabama State Black Chamber's annual Entrepreneurs and Innovators Conference. The one and only, the entrepreneurial artist and innovator, Joy Moore, founder, creator, and leader of Glyph Labs and the soon-to-be launch app Tag Fundraising. How are you today, Joy?
I'm doing very well. Thank you, Jerry.
Good. Well, we're so happy to have you with us today that you could take time out. And I know, I don't know if you've ever listened to the show, but we always have a musical theme for our guests based on where they're from. So you shared with me that you're from New Haven, Connecticut. So I searched high and low. I had to come up with somebody for you. So I came up with your homeboy, Mr. Michael Bolton, and his song, Go the Distance, with lyrics that say, I have often dreamed of a far-off place where a hero's welcome would be waiting for me, where crowds will cheer when they see my face, and a voice keeps saying, this is where I am meant to be. How about that, Joy? How about that?
That is hilarious. Thank you so much. I've not
Yes.
listened to Michael Bolton in a while, but I actually met him in the third grade. My teacher in third grade had a big crush on him, and it was like a big surprise that he came to our elementary school, and like we saw him and got to meet him, and it was like he was it that year.
He was
So
it back in the day, huh?
good memories. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, well, that's good, man. Well, if you want to relive that, that song comes from the Hercules movie in 1997. So you can check him out again.
Nice. Classic.
Yeah. So Joy, we know that you are a wife and a mother of two. So I'd like for you to tell our audience about this entrepreneurial thing that you do in your spare time and how you started on the path that led you to where you are today.
Sure. Long story short, I started entrepreneurship in high school. Like I had a business then. I took a basic business class in high school. It kind of sparked my interest. Always fascinated with business, always fascinated with tinkering. So then throughout my career, I kind of got into tech and got with tech companies. And that was really the spark for launching a startup and being my own entrepreneurs, like working with small startups and seeing the inner workings. Small businesses everyone on the team has to wear many hats. So I found myself, leading an engineering team, leading a sales team, building out business development for the entire organization. And after sort of sitting in every seat and wearing every hat, I just knew that eventually I'd launch my own thing. So I started Glyph Labs, where I could just do web development projects and just tinker. New technology comes out, I tinker with it, see what I can build, see what I can do. And it really just was a hobby of mine. Then I built for other people, got bigger clients, and here we are today.
Here we are today. And you also had this company called Crave, which was a marketing tech company. And you had indicated to me that you made an exit from that. So tell us a little bit about Crave and how hard was it for you to leave your baby behind? Because I know when you're a creative, we don't necessarily want to let go of things, but you are actually able to do that.
Yeah, totally. I actually built Crave with the expectation of letting it go. It wasn't my problem to solve. I actually started tinkering during COVID. So the foundation tech of Crave was the ability to create a web page for a mobile food truck, a restaurant, of their menu, and then share it with a QR code. So if you've been in restaurants and you've kind of been asked to scan a QR code or food trucks, it was the same technology. So tinkered around with that quite a bit during COVID, and towards the end, started getting restaurants on the platform, started growing a bit, really envisioned it as like a Yelp competitor.
Hmm.
But when I say that it wasn't my problem, I don't own a food truck. I don't own a restaurant. I had a lot of friends that were in the space, so I saw the problem firsthand for them, which is what led me to use my skill and knowledge to build something that could be their solution. So eventually I knew that I'd hand it off to either a bigger entity or someone that was directly in that space that could really put the marketing and put the branding and presence behind it, the personality behind it, to take it to new heights. And that's what we did. So it took about 7 months to just work through getting the tool to a place where we could sell it. And so we closed and wrapped that up in January. I still offer some support. My co-founder still offers some support to it as well. But it's supporting ghost kitchens in Texas now. So it's like I see my baby out there doing big things.
Ah,
Very
okay.
good.
Awesome.
So let's go back. Share with us why the IT space? It was that your major? And did you have any entrepreneurs in your family or your friend group?
Great question. I went to school for communications and business at Temple University in Philly. You could select a whole lot more music from Philadelphia. We do it in
Mhm.
I recommend selecting music from Philly. Um, and
Oh,
then I went to graduate school at Georgetown in DC. Also phenomenal, some great Chuck Brown and Junkyard Dog
Mhm.
music you could get from DC as well.
mhm,
And so yeah, majored in business and project management. Moved on and found myself in the nonprofit space, startup space, got with bigger tech companies, and as I described, sat in many seats, saw different roles, and my unique skill, I thought at the time, or kind of what was perceived, is I was able to translate for the engineers to the business people. So I kind of had enough understanding about coding, engineering, and product development that I helped the engineers who were a bit too deep in the code understand what the business people were talking about because I was a business person, and then helping the business people understand what the engineers were talking about. So my background business, but my interest as a tinkerer was with the engineering team. So I kind of straddled the middle and just became like the communicator between the two. And then
mhm,
as tech developed over time, so like tools in the past 10 years have been phenomenal. We've gone from no code and low code tools, which are like Wix and Canva, to where we
Mhm.
are now with AI. So it really does mean that someone who has the vision and the creativity can build all the tech that they need for their business without having a full engineering team. And that has completely changed the game for what I can build for my businesses, but also what I build for my clients.
oh, very good. So I do hear the passion. So is that what, sort of sets you on fire, this whole AI, IT space, or is it more the business and behind the scenes and running and growing the business, or would you rather be out, tinkering still?
Yeah, that's a great question. My passion for tinkering is entirely rooted in business. I very much want to see technology facilitate better relationships, better communication, and better business within our communities. The tech is there, it's easily accessible, more accessible than it's ever been. And so there's a ton of opportunity. And so I see that as a way of being able to do really great business. And my passion's really, to answer your question, my passion's really in business. But I tinker for the sake of business. So better business, better builds, and being able to leverage technology to improve business practices so that we can stand out and thrive as businesses.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, you got this new thing that's coming up that you're sharing with me that you're going to launch called Tag Fundraising. So how did you come up with it, and what does it do exactly?
Yeah, so great question. This is my baby. It's my baby, but it's also my problem. I have two student athletes that are very active. As a result, I've sold a lot of popcorn and cookie dough, as well as purchased a lot of popcorn and cookie dough. And I
Yeah.
see your heads nodding. You probably got some popcorn now
Yeah,
from
I
all
do.
the fundraisers. Yeah, so I also have 21 nieces and nephews, including friends' kids. So fundraising for everyone doing youth sports is a lot. And for quite some time, talking to parents on the sidelines and just talking to family friends with older kids in youth sports, it kind of just came to me at some point that there has to be a better way to get direct donations without product sales and without gimmicky things and without large margins going to the platforms. So if we back up to the technology now being more accessible and cheaper, I have a foundational belief that tech, particularly AI, needs to fill the need of like things you don't want to do and things that you're not paid to do. Volunteer work by parents, especially parents who have kids in youth sports, is like the top of the list of things we all hate to do, and we're not paid to do it. So to use AI and to leverage technology to make that more automated and to be able to connect with larger businesses to get your team funded kind of just like lit up one day and it was like we can build this and we can build this cheaply, securely, and easily. So we built Tag. We started with just a basic MVP, minimum viable product, a version of the tool that we can get some trials on. We launched our trials back in spring, and we've had 10 fundraisers in our pilot. We had 10 fundraisers raise $8,000 between the 10 of them, like in 45 days. So it had like great immediate traction, got a lot of customer feedback. So now we're in the second build of the MVP. And to back up to your original question, what it does is it's a social platform that allows student athletes, their parents, their coaches to create a page highlighting the student athletes. So that's their photos and videos about, them working out or their games or the championships, the things that they're doing to sort of build on this athletic journey. And then from that same page, you can share out in one link, same as Linktree or other tools of the sort. You can share out that link to your family, friends, and they can just visit that page to see how you're doing in your sport. While they're on that page, they can get automation for this is how they can support you with upcoming things. So travel for the championship, registration, tournaments, things like that. As those things pop up, now your fans, friends, families, even local businesses and community members visiting your page can just spot one click donate to you. And then you can raise those funds continuously and use them for whatever you need during your expensive season.
Yeah. Now you shared with me that you were going to you're going to a this gathering of coaches and sports programs and all that kind of stuff to actually display it. So what do you envision that's going to be like when you do that and they see it?
Yeah, so we're so excited. This is our first expo. It's our first public demo of the tool. We have pilots that are in and going really well, but this is an opportunity to get in front of a lot of coaches in the state of Alabama. So this is the Alabama High School Athletic Association, and they are the high school coaches for everything, wrestling, basketball, football. They're all going to be there for programming that's happening throughout the entire week. So we're going to be in the expo hall, just talking about Tag, getting signups, and just sharing our journey and getting more interest and certainly getting more feedback on the tool.
What an engine, I mean, a very clever way of handling fundraising.
Thank you.
Wow, it really is. So you've had some success. You had $8,000 raised in 45 days for how many families?
For 10, we had 10
For
student
10.
athlete fundraisers. Yeah.
And these folk are not getting any product in return. They're just donating for the cause and to help the student.
Yeah, yeah. And Ophelia, in customer discovery, what we found out is that we would hear from people that were asked for donation. It's like, can I just give you money? I don't want popcorn. I don't want any more cookie dough. Can I just give you money? And the neat thing about Tag is we facilitate that at no additional cost to the student athlete. So like I said, the tech is cheap to make. So we want to keep it free for student athletes to use the platform to collect donations from their friends and family. Now, where TAG levels up is in leveraging AI to do discovery of businesses in their local area, and then the actual automated outreach to collect donations from those businesses. So imagine like a little AI bot cheerleader that basically takes your story, your journey, and then compiles like a little media kit and sends it out to pizza restaurants, real estate agencies, dentist office, and says like, hey, this team is training in your backyard. They're going to the national championship and they want to raise for registration and travel while they're there. Would you like to donate? And they can donate anything from $25 to $2,500.
So let me ask you, and I don't know if you can share this, but how are you compensated?
That is
You're,
a wonderful question.
you don't
The
get 100% does not go to the I don't know, the student or the parent, right?
Mhm. Yeah, so for student athletes, it is free. The fundraising that the AI bot does, there is a percentage of that. It's about 8%. So that's collected as a platform fee. But again, that is the AI doing the work. It's a click, launch the AI, and it goes out and it fundraises for you. And then we take 8% of what's collected. Additionally, similar to GoFundMe, the model that they have is tips. So when you are actually checking out to make a donation to a student athlete, you get a pop-up that says, hey, we'd like to keep tag free for student athletes. Would you like to leave a tip for the platform?
Oh,
And that actually, for GoFundMe, as our example, as our researched example, that actually ends up in larger margins than if you do a 3-4% platform fee. And then for the larger organizations that are built on much more dense and heavy infrastructure tech, they take up to 30% with no product. And then you have 50% for those that are actually delivering a product on your behalf.
30%. That's crazy.
It is. So
Yeah.
you do all that work.
Yeah. How long did it take you to develop tag?
It has been in development probably since last summer, conceptually. Believe it or not, the technology to build it as cheaply as we're building it now, like really opened up in January. So that's when it was kind of like, let's jump on this now. I built it in two other tools. I built it in a no-code tool, and then I was working with a developer to build a larger MVP that would have been a longer build than a couple of weeks. And then one day I just sat down in a couple of different tools, Cursor, Replit, and Lovable. And I just kind of, at the same time, simultaneously built in 3 different platforms to like test them out. And then once I found one I liked, I just like continued building over like a 2-week period, just tinkering to get it up and running. And that was the product that we launched in the spring.
Yeah. So right now you've said that it's fairly inexpensive for you to build and develop. So in the future, as you get future versions of it, uh, do you see it being able to expand to things besides sports and
Absolutely.
do the same kinds of things?
Yeah,
And
absolutely. Oh, sorry.
and once you get into those other areas, will that kind of drive the cost of development up? And then at some point, would you have to look at maybe venture capital or something for the development, or if you decide to maintain it yourself, or potentially sell it off to a larger tech company?
Yeah, that's a great question. All of those options are really kind of so far into the future that I wouldn't exclude any of them.
Mhm.
I do want to build a very sustainable tool, like so a tool that does the thing that it's supposed to do really reliably and really securely. In addition to that, yes, I've actually already had interest about building a version for this for other fundraising areas. Maybe in areas that aren't my expertise. So I would definitely partner with those that are already in that space and have a big following in that space to build those type of tools. So there's definitely cross use for it, and it can be licensed out licensed out or stood up as a new tool in a completely different industry. Like that's always a possibility as well. I think VC, I'm very leery in general about VC is probably a lot of those that get into fundraising or looking for non-dilutive funding are. I've seen some pretty rough horror stories with VC.
Mhm.
I also think that the technology now, where it is, and as cheaply as some of it is, you don't need as much money for a successful build as you did 10 years ago. So the idea that you need 2.5 million just to get a product stood up is not the reality anymore. You actually have, I was looking at a list the other day. I wish I could remember where it's located, but it had like the top 100 companies that have beaten, I think, 50 million in ARR, and they have under 25 employees. And these are all brand new tech companies and overwhelmingly leveraging AI. They're either AI companies or they're leveraging AI to remain really small and have really great revenue. So I think there's a future where we're not going to need so much investment and so much capital in order to get some of these great tools off the ground.
Mhm.
Mm. I was in your presentation you did at the conference, and it was again wonderful. So you did a great job, and you had a lot of interest in tag, and you gave us some an exercise to do while there to to test it and share with the audience um what did that reveal. I think the end result of that was how much money right there you will need over the course of that season or whatever, because you had all these parameters set in place. So explain that exercise you had us to do.
Yeah, so great. So I have a cost calculator on the TAG website where
Mhm.
you're able to calculate the overall cost as a parent you need to be prepared for. So, when you think of my kids starting gymnastics, there's the registration fee. So you say, this is the amount that I'm paying for registration. But unless you're sitting down and budgeting, you really don't account for things like snacks, travel, gas, food. And then if they win a tournament or if they win like their regional championship and they got to go and fly somewhere, now you're flying the family. And 9 times out of 10, it's like Orlando and somewhere where you're
Yeah,
probably
you've
gonna,
got hotel.
yeah, hotel and all of that. And then entry fees and registration fees for the tournament. So what the calculator does is it takes, where you are, what sport you're playing, what level sport your student athlete is playing, excuse me, and then it gives you an estimate of what you need to be prepared for that season. So it's a real basic calculator. It's actually built in ChatGPT and it plugs right into the website. But it's just something where you can play around and get a better idea of all of what you should be considering when your child's going to start a new youth sport, and not just the registration fee that you pay and not thinking of all the other things you're going to be paying for.
Yeah, it was eye-opening for some of us, sitting out there in that audience. So it's like shocker, because you pay it as you go, but you're not adding up with that year, right? How much you've spent. That's a lot of money. I think someone there related they were spending maybe close to $10,000 for cheerleading camp. I had
Yeah.
no idea. And you get to see that in your app, because it is an app, right, on our phones.
Yes, ma'am. It's an app.
And you can just go and download it from whatever source, Apple Store, whatever.
Yeah, so it's actually a progressive web app, which means that you don't need to download it anywhere. You can access it the same way you do a website, and then it just
Okay.
recalls on your phone and shows back up. So there's a little less complication in it. Maybe eventually we'll put it in the App Store, but a lot of apps are choosing not to do that if they don't have a need for it.
Really?
Mhm.
So what's a disadvantage then of not being in an or what's an advantage, I'm sorry, of not being in an app store?
An advantage is the build that's required in an app store and what you have to essentially push to Apple. So you have to push new versions of an app to Apple for them to approve and modify or make changes to your app. So they do have some control. That is probably not even the biggest
Mhm.
detractor. The biggest detractor is the cost because you pay so much to Apple to be in the Apple Store or on the Android Play platform. And as a tool that's trying to keep it free, because
Hmm.
these are, this is fundraising for student athletes, we want to do everything to keep it as reasonably priced as possible. And if we can run it for as long as we can for free for student athletes, we want to. So unless our users say this really has to be in the Apple Store, we're not going to incur that additional cost.
Oh, that's smart. That's a smart way to go. And they're keeping at least 92% or whatever of the,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
about 98 actually, because
Okay.
there's a small percentage that's just the transaction fee of transferring the
Hmm.
money, but that's just a pass through. So yeah, you get to keep about 97.5 percent of the money, which is the highest you're going to get, and it's the same as GoFundMe.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So if I decide one day I wake up one morning and I say I want to be Joy and I want to do what Joy does, uh, what's important is it the educational background? Is it the experience of working with other people, knowledge of software, uh, or just getting in there and being hands-on and just doing it and figuring it out on the fly?
Yeah.
How would I become the next Joy?
That's such a good question. Well, if you wake up and one day you're me, I'm glad to send you my sports schedule for the kids. You can come get these kids and take them to all their little shuttle them around. No.
Right.
Um, I think the most significant thing is I learned at an early age to read people and read problems really well. I'm passionate about problem solving, and I think that will always put me in the position to want to find solutions for things. I also have the overwhelming privilege of being African American in the United States, and we have just the coolest, most creative, opportunities in front of us. So there's always going to be that passion to find solutions for our community and the creativity that we come up with. So yeah, I would just say communicating with people, connecting with people. I've met so many amazing people that want to help, want to know more, want to build something together, and I'm just thrilled to have that opportunity and have the platform for it.
Thank you for
Awesome.
that, your perspective on being Black in America, and especially a female. I love it. You go. Yes, I love it.
Thank you.
Yes, great attitude.
Yeah. So it sounds like, Joy, just listening to you, that everything has just been kind of smooth sailing. I mean, it sounds like the way you're presenting it, it just sounds so.
You
So
know, Jerry, we just never let them see us sweat.
that's true.
Sometimes,
But did you have any challenges? And if you did,
Challenges.
how did you handle those?
Absolutely. And that's a really good question. I am known in all the spaces I'm in, I'm known for being the optimistic person. My former tech lead, who was like uh, uh, head product officer back in the day at AOL. Like he's seen everything blow up, and he was my mentor. And he said like I'm like a duck on water. So like things are blowing up, things are going crazy. We have a new release in the morning. I can't get a hold of such and such engineer. I'm not even on the engineering team, and they're calling me to like, what should we do? Because I naturally have a like duck on water where like my feet
Yeah,
are just
got that
going, but I'm
confidence.
just like, just out here coasting, never let them see me sweat. But absolutely, there are challenges. And I'd say one of the biggest challenges is being alone in certain business and particularly tech spaces. You don't find Black women in certain industries to begin with. You certainly don't find us in tech very often. And those rooms with that lack of representation, especially when you're building tools that are supposed to impact your community, can be tough. And so you find yourself often the only one advocating for what you feel is like reason amongst those that don't see your position and don't have your background, not through malice, but just in not having your background and your experience. They don't see your position. So having to advocate for yourself, having to show up and walk the line between being assertive and committed and advocating and being aggressive, and how that shows up in certain spaces. I've been very grateful of the spaces I've been a part of and the communities I've built in the tech space, because I've met some amazing people in fintech and education tech and sports tech. You will find us. You'll find more Black women, more and more, especially over the past 5, 6 years as we've gotten more into tech. And so that's made things a lot more comfortable, but it's also made it a great time to step out and launch your own tools if you're coming out of the tech space.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, we come to break time because we've got to recognize our sponsors. And when we come back, we'll change up a little bit and hear from Joy Moore, the thought leader.
Hi, are you seeking a gateway to exceptional media services in photography and videography? Whether in Birmingham, Alabama or beyond, they are here to tell your unique story. Call 205-222-2133 or go to their website at aboswellmedia.net.
Calling all small business owners, get affordable legal protection at Legal Connections Group, LLC. It has nationwide coverage. Call Gloria Tisdale at 214-723-1559.
Looking to outfit your office with a new look? Contact the experts at Cox Commercial Interiors and Design. Call today at 205-243-0972.
From networking to resources, from growth to legacy. The Alabama State Black Chamber of Commerce is here for entrepreneurs like you. Visit alblacccc.org, that's alblacccc.org, and let's build something legendary.
And we're back with Entrepreneur's Edge, our special guest, Joy Moore, the founder, creator of Cliff Labs and Tag fundraising app. So, Joy, I just asked you because you mentioned AI all through the first segment. So, this has got a question for you. So there are a lot of concerns about AI that we hear out there in some spaces. It's kind of like the boogeyman, if you will. And even on the current Mission Impossible movie, you got Tom Cruise trying to stop this entity from taking over the world's nuclear arsenal. So how should we view AI and in general, and especially in the Black community? How should we be viewing AI?
Yes. First off, I acknowledge the concern, and I too share the concern. There are many things in this big bucket of artificial intelligence that's very dangerous and can be very exploitative. So I don't discredit feeling that way. But to answer your question, I view AI, and I believe it's important that our community views AI as a tool. It's a big tool. It can do a lot. And one of the things with the fear, the fear that's kind of going around about AI is it causes people to back away from considering AI as a tool. And I'll give you an example. I'll give you two examples, actually. You think of the calculator, how people learned before a calculator. Mm-hmm. Then the calculator was introduced in classrooms or at homes, and the immediate response was, we're no longer going to know how to do math. And what happened with the introduction of the calculator is actually it changed what you could do. You could do more expansive, complicated formulas, bigger math. You could look at math differently now that you have these tools that are able to do that. Now, a calculator is a tool in as much as AI is a tool. And here's why. If I don't understand how multiplication works, then putting 3 times 3 in a calculator means nothing to me. Conceptually, I have to understand that multiplication means this, division means this, fractions are a representation of this. So the calculator is not going to do it for me. That's a very early, a very simple example or analogy, I should say, of like a tool, and how looking at a tool through the lens of how it's going to harm you will put you behind using it for the benefit that you can actually use it for. The second thing is the internet. When the internet launched, there's a big understanding of all the horrible things you could use the internet to do. And as a result, certain communities, and I'll say specifically our communities, were some of the last to adopt computers and technology built on websites and the way that websites are interconnected and communicate. So when you think of when the internet first launched and the communities that said no, we're not interested. That seems evil. That seems problematic. Here we
Hmm.
are, however many decades later, and all the churches have a website. Everyone has now adopted it. But imagine looking at it through the lens of the possibility of what it can do and what it can do for your community, what it can do for your business, and utilizing it as a tool that way instead of just the fear mongering behind the Mission Impossible movie. Like all that's real. There's some real ethics concerns when it comes to AI, but there are certain communities that are not letting their foot off the gas. And I believe that the Black community is one where we cannot stop, pause, be scared to actually jump in and see all of the things that we can use these tools for, to advance ourselves in our community. And I say all of that with the knowledge that there's a massive job displacement that's coming as a result of AI. So we got to get in there, at least to see what it does, at least to learn the tools, and at least to orient our children to what they can do with the tools, whether they choose that type of work or not, rather than to just, be done with it, not engage, and then
Yeah.
find ourselves 2 decades from now behind.
So
Yeah.
what I hear is that it is good to have um, a healthy fear of this whole AI phenomenon, right? But not let it paralyze you so that you can take advantage and have it to move your business forward. So, having said that, um, for us who have small businesses and maybe, of course, not the number of employees we need, to service our accounts or whatever, to grow and to sustain, what are a couple of ways we can use AI tools, just simple AI tools? And I don't know about cost. I hear that there's the free one, and what can we do with the free one versus I think someone had told me $20 a month or, and it goes up. So explain that, the free and then the paid version. And what can we do as small businesses to help our businesses grow? I know we can in one space, you can get it to write things for you, right? You hear that a lot. Um, but what else can we use AI for?
Yeah, great question. I think at the most basic level, when you described using it to write things for you, there are
Mhm.
certain things that you can just use it as a support, as help, like things like website copy or contracts or sales letters or agreements, like things like that can be flawless. Like the idea of not being professional enough to be a business should totally go away because you can take whatever style of communication you have and you can plug it into ChatGPT or Claude or any of them and say, I am communicating with the CEO of this. I am asking for support on this type of item. I am looking for this type of outcome. And it can very specifically give you a very professionally written document, contract, whatever. So the first thing is use it for the basics, use it to help you level up the things that you're doing. Proofreading and not proofreading just as in grammar, but like adjusting the style for who you're communicating with my 13-year old's teacher and the, superintendent for the schools is a different style of communication. Could be the same message written differently. So I should be able to add that nuance to my communication style using ChatGPT. That is the very basic level of how it can be used. Now, to get into for your business, automation, if there's anything that you do repetition, you can use AI to do that. And what that does is free you up as a business owner to do other things that are better use of your time. So the cap that we have on being able to scale and to be able to operate and being able to take more customers or clients oftentimes come with our own limitation because in our community in particular, often we don't have the capital to hire large teams, to build out extensive automation systems. So leveraging those tools to kind of like not clone yourself, but like, replicate the work that you do in an automated way is a great way to get your time and resources onto something else that could truly scale and grow your business.
Hmm. Very good, very good. So with AI, there's automation. You can get that with the free version.
Not, there are some tools that are new to market that you can use for automation. I think the tech isn't quite there yet,
Mhm.
where I would say go in and start using those tools. But it's advancing so quickly. And by advancing quickly, I mean like tech that didn't exist 2 months ago. And I said, I wish I had this, for my business, like just launched last week. Google's
What was that?
launching.
Just launch that again, Jordan? What
I'm
was?
saying tech that didn't
Oh,
exist
oh, okay,
weeks
sure.
ago,
Hmm.
just launched,
Hmm.
last week. And I was just saying like, oh, it'd be great if it could do this, and now it does this. So
Mhm.
that's where like sort of keeping your ear to the ground and knowing the different tools and what they do. Not all of them, because there are a lot of them, but picking some of the tools, identifying what you need in your business, and then starting to tinker with those tools to build what you need. And to your question about what else it can do for your business, because we talked very
Hmm.
briefly about this at the event at the conference, the session at the conference, lead generators. This is like my number one for small businesses. If you are going online and trying to figure out how to get new business or new leads to your website or new foot traffic through the door, start looking at AI doing some type of lead generation for you. The calculator is a lead generator. It's free to use. Anyone can go and just tinker with it, and they become a lead because now they're using the calculator to determine the cost of youth sports. Guess what that tells me about them? They're concerned about the cost of youth sports. So it's like a direct one-to-one for identifying, my ideal user, pinpointing them, and then being able to communicate with them. And so you can do that for any industry. If you're a landscaper, if you're a plumber, if you're an accountant, there's something that your customer out there wants, and they're probably online searching for, and you building a simple lead generator might bring them right to your door.
And then I understand too that you have to be careful of the questions. It's what you put in is what you get out. And so you can't ask close-ended questions, right? So elaborate a little bit on about the type of question and how you should package your questions.
Yeah, absolutely. I think AI, especially a generative AI, like chatbots and things, they work best when you are honest and when you are a bit vulnerable. And here's why. AI naturally wants to make you happy. So it wants to give you the best answer for you to believe that that's like the greatest thing. It doesn't mean that the answer is wrong. It just means that it might not be giving you the whole picture if you don't know how to ask for the whole picture. So an
Mm,
example would be I ask AI a question and it gives me a response, and I'm like, cool, I got my answer. Well, I need to think a little deeper about what I'm really asking and if it's really answering what I need. So if I ask it, um, tell me about my customer, and it gives me my customer, I can walk away and say, okay, now I know everything I need to know. Or I can ask it something a little bit more nuanced, like, what do you need to know about the customer to tell me more about the customer? Like, what do you need to know about my sales or my foot traffic or how I've targeted customers in the past? What can I tell you? And it'll say, here's 20 questions that I want you to answer for me. And then I can pinpoint exactly what you're looking for. If I never go deep enough and think a few steps ahead of AI, actually, then it's just going to give me what I want. And I think I've won. I think I've gotten what I need. And quite frankly, there's a way to outsmart the AI or use the AI to the best of its ability by going a little deeper and being more of a thought partner with AI rather than just thinking it's like a Google search.
Now, Joy, you've said this publicly that there's a need for AI literacy, and I have to ask you, how do we make that happen exactly? You express it as need, and then also, let's say I'm not the most tech savvy person around. I'm a little nervous about the whole thing. So how do you bring those folks in? Uh, how do we create this? We foster this AI literacy, and how early should we start doing that?
That's a great question as well. I think to the question of literacy, AI literacy, and where to begin. I have to caveat that with like I come from the engineering meeting space, right? The engineering meetings that are very technical, very complicated, very long development cycles, right? The average person can't sit in that room and say, I understand what's going on. In the world of AI, you can. So I want to demystify and stop talking about AI within our community as if it's this complicated engineering and tech thing. Yes, it's complicated to build AI, but it's natural language. I can speak to it in, any vernacular for the most part, and it will translate and figure out what I mean. I've written things to AI. I've done voice notes, but I've written things to AI with like misspellings and stuff, and it just figures it out and continues the conversation to give me what I need. So the idea that you need to be perfect and flawless and technically, equipped is a myth. And it's a myth. I just got into it on LinkedIn with someone because there's an awful lot of gatekeeping happening in AI, and a lot of what I think is like shaming and fear mongering. But what I mean by gatekeeping is like people who intentionally try to make the language about AI sound more complicated than it is. It's not. And so I think to get to literacy, to actually answer your question, I think it's going to take people who work in the space having natural conversations in the community to lower the barrier of entry, like to make it easier to understand and easier to access, and being honest about what it is rather than trying to make it sound elitist and complicated, because it's truly not. Like with 90 minutes, you can build some really significant products that can solve your problem with the right team or the right developer or someone who understands AI, and they don't have to make it complicated or make it seem like you need to have a perfect idea in order to code something, vibe code something, essentially build something in AI.
Mhm. So AI is not the enemy.
It's not, it's a calculator, it's a tool, it's built to solve, it's truly built to solve problems. Like, so if you have problems, I don't say go in with a blindfold and just like absolve yourself of any critical thinking when it comes to using AI. There's absolutely things that go with the literacy of it, but don't just shy away from it. Like it's a horrible thing, because within the next probably 2 to 5 years, like everyone will have to adopt it in some way, or at least deal with the repercussions of how fast it's impacting every market.
Mm. So what do you see? You said there would be losses, but uh, in terms of employment due to AI. So to what level are you expecting that to happen?
So I shy away from anything that's like a massive impact that's like used to stoke fear. I don't like to share that with people or give the impression that anyone should be fearful of what's to come, because I think a big part of literacy is if you are involved, you are impacted in a different way. You are displaced when you are not involved and you are not at the table and you are not a part of the conversation of what's happening. That's where you're displaced. If you
Mhm.
are engaged and present, there's an opportunity there. So when I say displaced, I don't just mean like it's going away. I mean, it's going to change. And there will be those that engage with it and have opportunity and industries that completely change as a result. But there will be some that have major losses. I think engineering is a space that's going to have major losses. We're already seeing now the tools that can be used to code 24 hours, like code around the clock.
Right.
Humans have limitations. Um,
Yeah.
Tools that are used to correct code. So this is in the engineering space. So yeah, there's some people that have built some significant background and stock in organizations, and those organizations are actively looking at reducing the size of those engineering teams. And then you'll see that in other industries as well.
Well, I just don't want to be Tom Cruise trying to stop.
Or
And
what was
oh,
that Will
sorry.
Smith movie, guys? The I, Robot.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
remember that
That
one as
was,
well.
and we are there, you know?
We're there. We're
Are
there. In
there.
many ways, we're beyond there. And as fearful and challenging as it may sound at times, I actually used to teach media literacy for Girls Inc. Great program. And it
Yeah.
was a time, this is what, 2003 to 2007.
Mhm.
It's a time where social media had the same thing going on, where it was like, oh, these kids are on social media and it's a problem. Granted, it is a problem.
Mhm.
But what we would teach is the best way to have proper media literacy is actually to engage with it. If you've
Mhm.
never seen a fake news article, or you've never referenced or figured out how to research for proper answers, then anything you see when you just open up a computer is going to seem real to you. So, in teaching media literacy, we had to teach students about when you post things, when you post photos, like just because you hit delete, it doesn't actually delete, it exists on the web indefinitely. So, these are things that they just didn't know until they engaged with it and they learned from a professional. But also the other side of that is the opportunity with media. You think back to '05, we didn't have the social media influencers that we have now. We have people that are making millions of dollars a year
Mhm.
just in influencing products and making sales and things like that. That's a whole industry that exists that didn't exist when I was teaching media literacy. So those students at the time learned about a thing that wasn't even here yet. They learned to be literate in a thing that wasn't even here at the time that we were learning about it. And it better positioned them to know what to do when that technology came about. I feel very strongly about that when it comes to AI, being skeptical, but engaging and being aware so that as this technology advances, you know what to do and you have a footing and an understanding of what it can do.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask you real quickly. I mean, you talked about doing it Girls Inc. and teenagers and whatnot. So Joe, what you got for old people like me? You know, the folks that got the AARP card and all that kind of stuff like that. What are you doing for us that are hanging out at the senior center? Are you bringing some AI literacy over to the senior center?
Absolutely. Anyone who wants to learn AI absolutely should. There is a tool, a product, or something you can solve for at any level, at any age. I'm passionate about teaching it to the youth because they have a long time to deal with it. This is going to impact their ability to get a job when they graduate high school or graduate college. So they have to be aware. Those with, retirements, property, a bit more comfortable. It's not going to be as urgent. So it's not going to feel as urgent for you to learn it.
Good
But
point. Good point.
absolutely
Mhm.
worth learning it. And if nothing else, using it for your business, using it for your community organizations to do more with less.
And speaking of literacy in this whole space, you're exactly right. I have them in my family. Kids that think because it's on YouTube, it's, uh, TikTok, it's true. And there's some of them I try to tell them, right? Well, that's not true. That's not based in fact. Oh, yes, it
Mhm.
is. Such and such with his YouTube channel, whatever the name. He said it is. I'm like, oh my gosh, are we there? We are absolutely there. And I don't know, is that in the school system? I think it's something that should be incorporated in our public schools. The whole literacy thing. Maybe, Joy, that's another business model for you if you want to, take on that. And that is to sell a system program like that to school systems. It's needed.
Yeah, there was at some point, I know some schools were doing things around social media awareness,
Hmm.
which is not entirely media literacy. Social media awareness is like, making sure you're protecting yourself and aware of what happens on social media. Media literacy goes to like how you think, how you evaluate the information that you're receiving. And
Hmm.
that can be anything. Oh, perfect example. I don't know if we're nearing the end of our
Yeah,
time,
we
but
are.
I want to give an example if there is space. Is there some time?
You got,
Okay.
yes. Mhm.
Um, Recently, and I mean recently, like Monday. So, there's been a lot of talk about the use of AI models. So, like a person that's talking and communicating a message. And what they found is that a lot of, there were these videos that were going viral of a Black woman in military uniform celebrating after the bombs that hit Iran. And these were AI videos, and they're pretty easy to tell that they're AI videos. but they went viral. A lot of people shared them. A lot of people were, whether they felt critically about them or they were celebrating them, but a lot of people shared them. But the question pulled out of that was, why select Black women?
Right.
Why are Black women the AI model for something that's controversial or something that's, in this space, they believed something that was patriotic. And it's because of the clout and the reputation that comes behind our words and what we engage in and the communities that we built. And that was something that was snatched, put into an AI model, and put out there for propaganda. No one is able to stop that if we are not in the room when those things are built. If we are not aware of the technology, one, to be discerning of it when we see it, but also if we're not present and owning some of this content and owning what's happening and participating in these conversations, they can use our images for whatever propaganda they want to promote. And we have to be discerning, but we also have to be engaged and present, and leading some of what's being created so that the message that's being conveyed is truly ours and what we're trying to deliver on behalf of our community.
Yeah. Because everybody, of course, does not have good intentions, and they can create a scam out of anything.
Yeah.
And we all have to be very careful. Jerry, we can't hear you.
You're muted.
Yes, you're muted.
So we are getting closer to the end, but before we get to your shout out, is there anything else that you want to tell us that you feel our listening audience really, really needs to know?
Anything else? Find you some good people. That has been the testament to my career. Good people have always introduced me to good people and introduced me to other good people. And so I accept and receive that blessing. I connect with those that are like-minded and building and positive and creative. And somehow the universe has just made a way, by God's grace, for me to meet wonderful people who have great projects and great community work going on, including the two of you. So just a huge thank you. I'm very appreciative and humble to be present and have this conversation with the both of you on your platform. But yeah, my big tip is, regardless of what industry you're in, or what space or what career trajectory you're on, just make sure you're finding good people and staying connected with good people.
And you actually put that into practice at the conference, because an opportunity presented itself and you just immersed in it and took that thing by the horns and ran with it. So we thank you. Absolutely. So you have to always sort of be ready, as entrepreneurs, because you never kind of know where your blessings will come from, but you just have to be ready. And you were ready, my dear.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was a great opportunity. We had such great conversations, and that just came from seeing a need, an opportunity to continue the conversation and show up for people with the knowledge that I have and share in some way. And you all just gave me a platform to do that, in a projector or a TV screen, so that I can, talk my talk. And it was a great conversation. I enjoyed it.
And you did it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we're going to call on AI. We're going to do what you said. We're going to call on AI to help us find some good people.